When you know that you are queer, but your favorite drink is beer, that's gayish. You can bottom without stopping, but you can't stand going shopping, that's gayish. Oh, gayish, you're probably gayish. Well, life's just too short for narrow stereotypes, so it's gayish. We're also gayish. It's Gayish with Mike and Kyle.
Hello, everyone in the podcast universe. This is Gayish.
The podcast that knows there's no I in team, but there is cum in acumen.
Yeah. a lot of it.
That was sent in by Chase Carrico. Thank you, Chase.
Oh, our favorite math teacher from Kentucky.
Yeah.
I'm Mike Johnson.
I'm Kyle Getz.
And we're here to bridge the gap between sexuality and actuality. And today, we have to pump you up.
We're going to get rated out.
Yeah.
Steroids.
We're going to talk about steroids. But first. Okay. Before we go into the news, Kyle.
Okay.
We have received a couple of times now feedback about pink news.
Oh, yeah.
And there is a recording that surfaced on X, formerly known as Twitter, that is allegedly the CEO and founder of Pink News saying out loud with his mouth whole that they are no longer going to support the trans community because it's bad for working with their advertisers. And I have been advised of this situation and asked not to use Pink News as a source for news stories. I'm taking that under advisement. I'd like a little more clarity on whether it was actually him that said these things, and at this point it seems pretty legit, but there is still that whole like innocent until proven guilty, or at least guiltier than one angry post on Twitter. So assuming that things stay on the up and up, I will try to stop utilizing them as a source.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
As you should, because that's a really shitty thing to do and say.
Yeah. Well, especially given the size of their market share, or mind share anyway, in the queer news world. It really, really sucks. Now, there have been accusations of it being a toxic work culture for a long time. They are basically run by just cis white dudes, gay dudes, but cis white dudes. There is a not revenge. What's the word I'm looking for? Whistleblower. There's a whistleblower account on Twitter that was the source of this audio of him talking about trans people being a drag on revenue. But anyway, it just apparently things have been brewing at Pink News for a while now, and this just seems like the last nail in that coffin, or whatever.
Interesting. This is not where I would have placed the next scandal to.
I know, right?
Come out about trans people. I would expect that from the right, not from within.
I know. The call is coming from inside the house.
Yeah.
I saw Scream for the first time this weekend.
Oh, yeah? What'd you think?
It's not a news story, but it's worth talking about.
Okay, sure, yeah.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, you liked it?
Yeah. I mean, it was fine.
Yeah.
I remember it being scarier, but it wasn't scary. In fact, it was downright funny sometimes. So,
that's how I felt about The Exorcist.
Okay. Yeah.
My dad and I watched that like as adults, but
I mean, it's from the 70s, right? So the pacing is weird.
Like yeah.
Anyway, okay. Now the news.
Now the news.
Shut your mouth hole. It's time for your ear holes. News.
Okay, Kyle.
Yeah.
News the first.
Yeah.
Your home state of Texas.
Woohoo! What'd they do? Something good, I hope.
Nope.
Okay.
Texas officials have quietly implemented a policy that prevents trans people from changing their gender marker on their driver's licenses.
Yeah.
It was reported last week by Austin's NPR affiliate, The Texas Newsroom. Says that even if a person has updated their birth certificates, or even potentially if they have a court order, Sherry Gibson, the chief of Texas's driver license division, put out an email that says, quote, effective immediately, August 20th, 2024, the department will not accept court orders or amended birth certificates issued that change the sex when it differs from documentation already on file. For current driver's license or ID card holders, the sex established at the time of original application and listed in the driver record will not be changed unless there was a clerical error.
Isn't a court order like a court ordering you to do something? Isn't that the point of a court order? Like, that seems pretty defiant not to
I don't think they care about the rules, Kyle.
I guess they don't. I guess arguing the rules with them might not be effective strategy.
Although they would be the first to say that we were breaking the rules if we were breaking the rules. Hypocrisy knows no bounds amongst the right, y'all. Gibson, this official, also apparently explicitly told workers not to share the email.
Yeah, right. Sure.
And added, quote, "This email address is for internal reporting only and should not be shared with customers." And their website has changed to remove their gender change policy information. HuffPo was reporting that. And it all comes on the heels of Republican attorney dickbag fuckface asshole Ken Paxton requesting data from a lot of different sources, including other states, on trans care, in which Washington state, our home state, said no.
No, you can't have that.
You cannot have that without a court order, because it means something, Texas.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll keep watching this story, but it's an election year, so you can expect the shittiness to amplify and continue.
Yeah.
Sorry, y'all. Just, I don't know, move? No, that's bad. That's privilege.
Yeah.
That a lot of people don't have. So, great. Sorry.
Yeah.
News the second?
Yeah.
Okay, so Anna Popova, who is the head of a Russian consumer protection agency, has declared that Mpox isn't going to happen in Russia.
Okay, sure. I wish Mpox could listen to like the words that we say and follow their guidelines. Well, I declare it won't happen to me.
She said, basically, she said it's because we're so shitty to gay people. We're going to keep it out by being shitty to gay people. She said, quote, "Considering the specifics of how Mpox is spread, I'm absolutely sure that in Russia, with its traditional values, this disease, which is an epidemic disease, is not something we need to be afraid of." Which, just in case you all don't know or are living under a rock, Mpox does not care what your sexual orientation is. Yeah. And although it is most commonly transmitted through sexual contact between gay, bi, and other men who have sex with men, doesn't mean that you have a magic potion if you are not gay.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, your traditional values don't act as a blocker to Mpox.
Yep, it's absolutely true. Now we have this latest outbreak of Clade 1 has not been reported in the United States yet, so we have 0 cases. Maybe because we're better at hating gay people.
We're pretty good at hating gay people. Not better than Russia, I wouldn't say.
Well, anyway, she did say that there have been 3 cases of Mpox in Russia. But, quote, "We're not expecting it to spread. It won't happen." Russia's awful to gay people and continues to be. And I kind of think in a way they might be right. Like, Mpox might have a slower spread because gay people aren't allowed to be out in public, but it also might spread quicker because, like, anytime you have a really oppressive regime like that, then like riskier kinds of sex happen.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Huh. We'll see. That's interesting.
And God, she just looks like an evil bitch. Okay. News the last.
Yeah.
Did you watch the DNC last week?
I did not. I saw like clips of speeches on Instagram.
Well, the clip, I think, of the entire thing, at least as far as gay people are concerned, came from Michigan's Dana Nessel. And she is the Attorney General of Michigan. And she was talking about the erosion of civil rights that has happened of late, especially pointing to Roe v. Wade and the removal of a nationwide constitutional right to abortion in this country. But she was then touching on her belief that the right, that Christian Republicans in this country are coming after gay marriage next. Mm-hmm. And she said, quote, "Just as the same-sex marriage ban was overturned in California, so too was the abortion ban in Michigan. By the way, I've got a message for the Republicans and the justices of the United States Supreme Court. You can pry this wedding band from my cold, dead, gay hand." And I just fucking loved it. She is the state's first out gay attorney general, has been in office since 2019. Yeah, I just it is, that quote just really sails out to me from last week. You can pry my wedding band off of my. You can pry this wedding band from my cold, dead, gay hand.
Yeah.
She's fantastic.
Yeah, that's great.
It reminds me of that crazy dead guy from the
Rush Limbaugh
from the NRA.
Oh,
Charlton Heston.
Oh.
When Charlton Heston held the rifle at the Republican National Convention, I think it was the RNC, and he's like, "You can pry this gun from my cold, dead hands."
Scary.
Yeah. This is just a wedding ring.
Yeah.
You can get over it, everybody.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's the news.
That's the news. Speaking of people,
cold dead hands,
we don't live in Russia. I want to thank the following new Patreon members. Thank you to Rhino445.
Oh, hung like a black rhino.
Is that a saying?
I think black rhinos have the biggest dicks.
Oh,
on land animals.
Wow. That's your fact of the day. We always nestle one fact in the Patreon names, and per usual. Rob Onken.
Okay.
What?
I don't know. That sounds like a made-up name.
Oh. Theodore Weigand.
Okay.
Weigand. And Charlie Pryor. Thank you to all our new Patreon members. If you want... Why do you have confused face?
Richard Pryor's brother?
Sure.
Okay.
If you want ad-free episodes a day early, if you want bonus episodes, if you want to hear our commentary track on our very first episode, go to patreon.com/gayish podcast.
Do it.
Do you want to talk about steroids?
Let's talk about steroids.
Let's talk about steroids.
Wait.
What?
It wasn't my fault.
It wasn't.
I picked it off of the list, but it was on the list because it was a survey request.
It was a survey request.
We sent out a survey to listeners, I don't know, the last time we cared, last year sometime?
Yeah, last year.
And asked for your ideas for episodes, and Steroids was on there, and I think it's a good one.
Yeah, me too. Why? But you picked it from the list of things. What drew you to the topic of steroids?
Oh, I'm a solidly middle-aged man now, thinking that my virility has gone down the drain and I'll never get it back. And steroids is one of the ways that I think men of a certain age try to reclaim that.
Wow.
And I'm not going to.
I was going to ask if you've ever considered.
No. I mean, the closest I ever got was I did have probably. So I used to, Kyle.
What?
My mouth isn't working.
Oh, try again. You got it.
I had very, very, very low testosterone at one point in time. And it turns out that when I was Jacked Mike, who hasn't made an appearance on the show recently, but my body and my bone structure, etc., the amount of calories that I had to burn to be 170 something pounds was like shutting down my organs.
Oh, wow.
Anyway, I was on testosterone replacement for a while under the supervision of my doctor to try to get all of that evened out. But yeah, I was definitely like running too much and lifting too much and not eating enough, and like that was definitely fucking with my chemicals. That's the closest that I ever got. Now, if it turned out that for whatever reason, because a lot of men of a certain age. I'm 45 years old, Kyle. Like my testosterone is likely waning, and it wasn't that high to begin with. So I might end up back there again someday. But we'll talk about all of the different kinds of steroids and what they do and when you use them and why. But almost all of them are without close supervision of an endocrinologist.
Right.
Illegal as fuck.
Yeah, for sure.
But that's sort of a good segue.
Yeah.
Would you ever do steroids?
No.
But you're into the boys who do them?
I don't know that I am. No. Like, if you obviously do steroids, like that look, it might be too much for me.
Yeah.
Too muscly, there's a certain amount of beefcake that can go beyond my desired buffness. It's
interesting, though, because I do think that there are a lot of fitness folks who are on steroids. They're just not doing it to that like Mr. Olympia level,
right?
And there are a lot of, I think, social media influencers who are definitely on steroids, but they don't look like that, like super juiced up body type either.
Right. Yeah.
Which there's, I think, plenty to talk about in that space. I did want to talk to you about the history of steroids.
Sure.
But I think we should first sort of calibrate on what we mean by steroids, right? Because a steroid, strictly speaking, is a chemical thing, right? Like there is a class of molecules that are called steroids. They're organic compounds, and they have 4 rings to them, and then different like other kinds of molecules that hang off of them or whatever. And there are lots of things that we call steroids that aren't actually steroids chemically, but they're performance-enhancing drugs is sort of the classification. And then there are lots of steroids that do stuff that isn't just building muscle. Like when we think of like the social media influencer who is on gear, another synonym for...
Oh, I've never heard that one.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, when somebody says they're on gear, they mean steroids. So there are steroids that have like muscle building and fat loss effects, but that's just like one of the many different things that different classifications of steroids can do. And then there's just the like colloquial, somebody's on steroids. We mean performance enhancing drugs. And I assumed that's the direction that we were going with the episode.
That's what we're talking about.
But I briefly just wanted to touch on the other ones.
Okay.
So there are animal steroids and there are plant steroids, and animal steroids, like humans, really come into a couple of categories. So there's sex hormones, which influence sex differences and support reproduction. Things like androgens, estrogens, and progestogens. So technically, birth control pills, a lot of birth control pills are just affecting estrogen and progesterone, and that's steroids. Like she's doing steroids to regulate her period.
Interesting. Right? But you wouldn't say that colloquially, like that
right.
Just doesn't make sense.
Right.
With the way we use the word.
Right. So then there's also corticosteroids, which regulate a lot of aspects of like metabolism, immune function, kidney function, electrolytes, blood volume. There are a lot of like syndromes and diseases that can be fixed or regulated or modified, mitigated by corticosteroids. I've had, for various skin conditions over the years, I've used topical corticosteroids. So things like psoriasis and eczema are controllable using those steroids. We also don't say those people are doing steroids, right? But steroid cream is a thing for lots of different conditions. And it can also help with like autoimmune deficiency or autoimmune syndromes like Cushing's syndrome, JFK. Well, I'm going to talk about him a little bit in the history of, but he had to do steroids just to like function. And then there's anabolic steroids, which are they interact with androgen receptors to increase muscle and bone synthesis. And when we say steroids in popular culture, we mean anabolic steroids.
Right.
One thing that we should definitely touch on, though, I meant to say this earlier, like towards the top. We're not doctors, y'all.
Oh, yeah.
So don't listen to us.
Yeah. Listen to your actual doctor if you want advice.
Yeah.
This is not doctorly advice.
Yeah. You can call me doctor if you want to.
Oh,
Dr.
part
Daddy.
Of some role-playing exercises.
Dr. Daddy. I like that. We also have to touch on the fact that HRT, hormone replacement therapy, and gender-affirming care is often accomplished by the administration of steroids. And so all of those secondary sex characteristics that testosterone provides to cis boys when they go through puberty, that's ultimately what we're going after for transition from female to male. And then the other direction usually is estrogen, which is also a steroid that is administered to help with feminizing characteristics. But we also don't say that trans people are doing steroids.
Right. Yeah, I talked about the performance-enhancing drugs one. That's what I have info on.
Great.
I hope that's what you have info on too. Okay, cool.
Yep. But just me being me, it's complicated.
Yeah. It's not that complicated.
Okay. Great.
Because we know what we mean when we say it.
Just like porn.
Just like porn.
Okay, so the history of steroids, Kyle. If you had to guess,
oh God,
how long do you think we've been using steroids for this kind of stuff?
Since 1890.
It's a good guess. It's wrong.
Yeah.
But the earliest study of endocrinology began in China, and they were isolating sex and pituitary hormones from human urine and using them for medicinal purposes by 200 BC.
Wow. They were using urine as steroids?
Yeah. So apparently not just human urine, but also bovine urine has been used to extract steroids because we def pee a lot of biological chemicals out when we urinate, and they can be extracted and reused in some cases.
You heard it here first, folks. Inject your urine into your body.
Yeah. If you want to get jacked,
you'll get muscly.
Drink urine.
I know some gay guys will do that for free. Right. They don't even need to get jacked to do
that. So in ancient India, about the 6th century BC, they were using cow urine for the treatment of ascites. I don't know how to say that word. Anyway, heart failure, renal failure, vitiligo, and so it's clear that ancient Indians had some understanding of steroid properties of cow urine. Now, the whole urine thing, just touching on that, that's why you can pee on a stick to determine if you're pregnant. Because you excrete hormonal steroid differences.
Gotcha.
Anyway. Okay. We have to talk about this dude.
Okay. What dude?
There's this guy named Arnold Adolf Berthold.
Not the Arnold I thought you were going to go with.
No, we should probably talk about him too. But he was a 19th century German scientist. He was a physiologist and a zoologist, and he started a whole bunch of experiments in endocrinology that ultimately ended up leading us to being able to synthesize sex hormones like testosterone and estrogen. He gets a lot of the credit for it, and he was kind of a weird dude. So one of the things that he did, he noticed or talked about the castrati. You know what a castrati is? Mm-mm. So super fucked up back in the day. If a boy was really, really good at singing and we wanted to preserve his angelically high voice, we would cut his nuts off.
Oh, yeah.
Thus, he was a castrati.
Oh.
And they would then...
Oh, castrated.
Yep,
got it.
Yep. They were men who were castrated before puberty. And so it was to keep their singing voices all pretty. And but people noticed that they also then had other secondary sex characteristics that they didn't develop. So they tended to have a straight hairline. They grew unusually long limbs, and we weren't sure what that was about. But then did not have a deepening of a voice or development of an Adam's apple. And so then it was also noticed that if you castrated chickens, roosters, well, a rooster hasn't been castrated, but if you took a chicken's balls out, they also developed differently. They would be less aggressive. They would be smaller in musculature.
They would sing beautifully.
They would be missing their coxcomb and wattle, so they didn't have their
hat or their beard.
Their hat or their beard. And they were also, again, less aggressive. They were docile, and they also, I guess, were tastier.
Oh,
they had tender meat.
Wow, as part of the experiment, let's consume this and see how it tastes differently. I hope they didn't do that to the boys.
Well, this more stuff I hope they didn't do to the boys. So this dude Berthold, he spoke at the Royal Scientific Society in Göttingen, anyway, I don't know how to say that. But he'd taken 6 cocks, chickens, and removed their testicles, or removed the testicles of 4 of them. The 2 uncastrated birds continued to develop normally. They were the control. The other birds remained without male characteristics, so they had all of this stuff. But then he transplanted the testicles back into 2 of the castrated birds in a different location.
In a different location?
In their abdomens.
Weird.
And the remasculated birds progressed to develop secondary sex characteristics. Huh. So he took their balls out and then he put them back in a different place, and they got their funky beard and hat.
This sounds like Saw for birds.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And then after they died, he cut them open and found the transplanted testicles had grown new vasculature. And so that demonstrated whatever was controlling the secondary characteristics was transported from the testes via the bloodstream. And we didn't really know how any of this shit worked. We thought it was magic, right? Or bodily humors or whatever the fuck. But no, this dude proved that, no, it's your balls, man. And that it is being transmitted through your bloodstream. I say all of that because he had these groundbreaking results that proved that musculature, voice deepening, hair patterns, that all of these things were at least in part being driven by testicles. But he never married. Which is, that's wink, wink, nod, nod code for
gay.
Being gay. He kind of looks gay too.
Yeah? Does he
a little bit?
have a gay headshot in Wikipedia?
Yeah. I don't know. Look at that. Look at that uptight faggot.
Look at those little glasses.
And his little swoopy hair. And his cravat that he's wearing. Anyway, so I'm starting the rumor that the father of steroids, or at least steroids theory, Arnold Adolf Berthold, was a homosexual.
Wow.
It is interesting to me how, we talk about this on the show all the time, but trying to get Bing to tell me if he was gay or not, it's always you shouldn't speculate on the sexuality of people. I'm like, okay, that's fine, but just tell me.
But was he gay?
But was he gay?
Come on now. Yeah.
Anyway, okay, so the other dude that I want to talk about is this guy, John Ziegler. So John Bosley Ziegler, he was born in 1920-ish, and he is the person who originally developed the anabolic steroid methandrostenolone. Sure. Or Dianabol, also known as D-bol, which is still used by bodybuilders for the juice. Now, what's interesting about this guy is that he not only was a founder, but he's also a client.
He used himself.
Yeah. So he was an officer in the United States Marine Corps in the Pacific in World War II, where he got shot up a bunch. And he was a surgeon and ended up teaching at the University of Maryland Medical School, and had this career in medicine. But he also was, quote, an enthusiastic weightlifter. And probably, so because of that relationship, then he was hanging out with the Mr. America of the time, Joe Weider and Charles Atlas. He knew all of these guys, and in October of 1954, he went to Vienna with the American weightlifting team, and he met a Russian physicist who repeatedly asked him over drinks, "What are you giving your boys?" And he's like, meat and vitamins or whatever.
Ballless chickens.
And the Russian said that he was giving his athletes testosterone. And he went back to the United States and started experimenting on himself.
Ooh, that's nerve-wracking.
Right? I'm going to boil his urine and inject it in myself. It's this is basically what he was doing. But he tried testosterone on himself, and a trainer and 3 lifters, and all of them gained more weight and strength than they would have been able to if they were just eating right and exercising or whatever. And then he looked for a synthetic substance that would mimic testosterone, and he had access to a bunch of books and records from Germany because the Nazis had done a bunch of investigative experiments around testosterone, and he somehow figured out how to make this synthetic anabolic steroid called D-bol. And he gave it to the entire U.S. Olympic weightlifting team in 1960. They still lost, though. But
suckers.
But yeah, he like legit invented the first like injectable testosterone replacement for athletes.
Wow.
He never married. He like hung out with muscleheads and like tried to get jacked himself, and was just like injected people left and right, trying to get them all buff. And I think he was also gay. He also was quoted in Science magazine in 1972 saying that he regretted it. It being inventing steroids, that he thought that it ruined sports and that it really had caused a bunch of heartache, and that it was feeding liver problems with some athletes who had taken so much of it that they had started to develop, liver problems. Yeah. And basically he's like, I created a monster of people like in their relationship to their bodies and muscle, and it like my drug kicked off a lot of that and the culture. And
how do you live with that?
I don't know.
Well, he's dead, so
he is dead. But he said, quote, "I wish to God now I'd never done it. I'd like to go back and take that whole chapter out of my life." Wow. He died in 1983 at the age of 63, and don't know if it was HIV, but it was heart failure. But he was a fit dude. He was doing a bunch of roids, but also that's sort of when HIV/AIDS got started. And again, he never married. Code for a big old mo. Anyway, that's the history stuff that I wanted to tell you about.
Well, I want to tell you about some Gata. And this is a study called...
This is the question, right?
What?
We're going to do this. We were talking at the bar the other night, which, by the way, are you recovered?
Almost.
From Friday?
Almost recovered.
Sweet Jesus, everybody. Kyle and I really, really did a number on ourselves on Friday.
Which is why yesterday I did nothing.
Right. Okay. But no, we were talking at the bar about this episode in advance, and we were like, are steroids gay? Do we think gays do more steroids?
More likely, or straights more likely to do steroids?
Is this going to answer that question?
Yes.
Okay, great. Hit me.
Okay. But we need some foreplay. This is the study Sexual Orientation and Anabolic Androgenic Steroids in U.S. Adolescent Boys by Aaron J. Blashill and Stephen A. Safran. This was published in Pediatrics.
Is that a peer-reviewed?
An official peer-reviewed journal of the American Academy of Pediatrics.
Oh,
the AAP.
I wonder where that siren is going.
All
right.
It was published in 2014.
Okay.
So the participants were 17,250 adolescent boys from 2005 to 2007 in the Youth Risk Behaviors surveys. And
it just creeps me out a little bit.
What?
Like, I know this is my own internalized homophobia or shame or whatever, but I'm like, you're going to put gay and adolescent boy in the same, like sexual orientation and adolescent boy in the same study. Like, what creepozoid freakos like are doing gross shit?
It's not gross.
Okay, great. Go.
And they call them sexual minority boys. Does that help you?
Oh.
No?
I mean, I know a few, but that's boy with an I.
Sexual minority boys were 5.8 times more likely to report use of anabolic steroids.
5.8 times more likely. Wow.
So for heterosexual boys, the prevalence rate was 4%, and for sexual minority boys, it was 21%.
Get the fuck out of here, Kyle.
No, I won't. That's the number that it said.
1 in 5.
Yeah.
1 in 5.
Yeah.
Maybe I need to get on steroids.
It seems like, from what I'm reading, it seems like something that is far more common than we realize.
Yeah.
Like, once you know, then you kind of know.
Okay.
Exploratory analyses suggested that increased depressive symptoms and suicidality victimization and substance use contributed to this disparity.
So, say that again. Okay, so being depressed. So I'm gonna get juiced up so I feel better. Great. Okay, what else?
Victimization.
Like, oh, I'll show those bullies. I'm gonna get buff and beat them up. Okay,
maybe.
I'm just
substance use.
Substance use. Isn't doing steroids literally substance use?
Yeah, but I think other substance, like
I got drunk, so I shot myself up with testosterone.
I think if you use one substance, you're more likely to use another substance.
Got it. Okay. Better living through chemistry.
Yeah. Better what?
Living.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. One thing that was not assessed in the youth risk behavior surveys was body dissatisfaction. So that is a limitation of this study and something that they suggested, of course, to study in future research.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's the fear, right?
Yeah.
Gays.
That's where I thought it came from, is that gays would be more likely to be dissatisfied with their body, have more pressure to be fit and hot and jacked and attractive and
totally unrealistic body standards.
Yeah. And
the added compounding problem of wanting to bang what you see.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. You like the gender that you are, so your standards for what you're interested in, then you can apply to yourself, and then
it multiplies or whatever.
Yeah.
Ew.
Yeah. But yeah, that's a far greater difference than I expected, and far more gay people that use steroids than I imagined.
So it's gayer than you thought it would be.
Yeah, it's even gayer than I thought.
Great. Okay.
Can I read you this Ask Reddit?
I sure hope you do.
Okay. I'm gonna save one of them and do it for Patreon.
Okay.
But the one that I'm going to tell you about is actually from Quora. And they asked, do steroids make you gay?
Oh no. Maybe they do.
The answer is yes and also no. This one person answered.
I have heard that from a Ty Turner is his name. He's a trans YouTuber, and I've been following his journey. But he swears up and down, and has had some people substantiate this for him, that like when he was presenting female and then went on testosterone as part of his transition, that it made him bi.
Mm-hmm.
That he had like always been into just women, and then kind of was then into dudes as well after he started his transition. So I don't know if this is going to say anything that like in that space, but it's a thing that I've heard before.
And yeah, I started doing like a little bit of like looking this up. I was like, what a dumb question. I'll grab that. And then I started like actually looking it up. And then, yeah, a lot of people said that like their sexual appetite increased after using testosterone. Anyway, this person says, do steroids make you gay? Yes, and also no. For tren specifically, tren is a type of, I think, steroid. Yep. This seems to start men off to at least like trans women. Basically, their sex drive goes so high that when supply dries up, they start going for literally anything they can get. I had one patient who had 5 girlfriends, 7 side pieces, and started having sex with trans pre-ops because he still wanted more. He did eventually have sex with full-on men as well. He was on a very high dose of tren. Women will also go more bi as well. Basically, their sex drive goes so high that everything becomes attractive because they are horny 24/7.
Okay, trenbolone. Let me look that up and see how I can get some of that in my life. I've been very stressed out, and that has made me not horny, and I want to fix that. I'm kidding.
Don't do tren just for this. But there might be something to what I first thought was a dumb throwaway question. There might be something to, does it make you gay? Because maybe it just makes your sex drive go up and makes you so horny that you got to get that dick no matter where it is.
Yeah. Or hole or whatever.
Or hole. Yeah.
It is interesting. Like, we like to think that we are who we are, and it's not because of our brain chemistry or like... I think it's why the Twinkie defense just sounds like such bullshit, right? Like I murdered that dude because I ate too much junk food. the Dan White, the guy who murdered Harvey Milk, used that as a defense. And like, there's some part of us that wants to believe that you can't eat a Twinkie and turn into a murderer. And I don't think that's what happened with this guy either. But part of the reason that we react so strongly to it is this idea that like what you put in your body can't like fundamentally change you as a human person.
Yeah.
And so it does feel like it would be bullshit on the surface. That like, no, you can't just start testosterone and suddenly you're like bi or into furniture or something like but I guess it's true.
But maybe it's possible. I don't know. I wish I could have dived even deeper. Dived even deeper into this to try to figure out if there's any studies, but I didn't see anything off the top that was like proved whether or not it like made you hornier or made you like change your orientation. But surely there are enough trans people that have used tea to evaluate and figure out if that changes your orientation at all.
Yeah. I have heard it changes libido by a lot, and that's one of the symptoms that cis men go on testosterone for is low libido. But yet changing orientation, I don't know. But at least the one guy that I watched sure seemed to think so.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned tren. Should we talk about the other kinds of steroids?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Well, this is off of muscleandfitness.com, which is kind of scary to me how much like advice you can get about illegal steroid use from muscleandfitness.com or other muscle and fitness magazines.
But isn't that good? Like, don't we want some harm reduction kind of advice? Like, if people don't give advice, then someone's just going to try to inject it and not know like what the dosage is or or where to do it or.
Well, so Thomas O'Connor, who is called the Anabolic Doc, specializes in patients seeking recovery from anabolic steroid use. But he also knows that he cannot stop people from experimenting. And there's another guy named Fakhri Mubarak, who's a prep coach who speaks openly about his own steroid use, strongly recommends finding a health professional you can work with if you do choose to use performance enhancers. That scares the shit out of me.
What?
Just the idea that like, I guarantee if I ever did steroids, nobody would know, Kyle. I wouldn't tell you. I wouldn't tell my doctor. I wouldn't tell anybody.
Yeah.
And, but this guy is like, yeah, you should tell your doctor. And your doctor will probably tell you, don't do that.
Yeah.
But then at least he knows and can maybe do some risk reduction and help you. Like I said, your doctor can help you do so as safely as possible.
Yeah.
So one is Anadrol.
Okay.
And Anadrol is a quote, a cheap bulking steroid, but with many serious downsides. Gains are often due to water retention, and you'll lose more than half your gains after ceasing. I thought all gains, bro, like spelling gains with a Z.
Yeah.
Like, I always thought that was kind of bullshit, but that's like legit how they talk in this world.
Also, you'll lose your gains as soon as you go off it. So once you go on steroids, you're kind of making the decision that this is a permanent thing that you're going to do.
Potentially.
That's wow.
I mean, there are also some for which that's not true. Not on this list is creatine. Creatine monohydrate comes in a powder. You can get it. It's legal. You can get it online. I have used that before. It is not the kind of thing that stopping will move you backwards. So it just depends on the thing. Anyway, so Anadrol is an old school steroid that was originally prescribed to help with weight gain after surgery or infection. So people who were like had a medical need to keep their weight up. This is what it was invented for. But really, side effects. You were going to talk about side effects.
Yeah, but you can.
Anavar is one for cutting and
cutting fat. presumably.
Cutting. Yeah. One of the best anabolic steroids for cutting overall. And what when a bodybuilder says that, they mean losing weight. Yeah. It's an oral steroid also. But a lot of bodybuilders say that women take it, which that's interesting. I think of testosterone. I think of steroids as being a male thing.
Yeah, me too.
And it's not. Like there was information all over the place about women, and the cycles are different. They have different biological needs, and anyway, I just think it's really interesting. Arimidex, which is actually meant more, it's not a steroid, and it's one that gets added into these cocktails because it helps with estrogen related side effects like gynecomastia and bloating, which you're fucking with like some pretty serious systems in your body that like there can be pretty wild results. Is that something you're going to talk about also?
Not results, no.
Yeah, like it can cause men to grow breast tissue sometimes, and it can cause heart problems. It can cause testicular shrinkage. It doesn't shrink your dick. That's a urban legend, but it can shrink your testicles. Anyway, clenbuterol. We talked about clen a little bit earlier. It is used to increase lean muscle mass, also often used by women. It's a stimulant, which is interesting because one of the side effects then is the clen shakes, because you can get jitters from it. Quote, it's like drinking 10 cups of coffee or 5 Red Bulls. Some people have ended up in the emergency room because of it.
Wow. God, I don't want to feel like I've had 5 Red Bulls. That's
I don't even like one. Deca-durabolin, it's an injectable steroid used for building mass. It is used clinically sometimes for cancer, anemia, or AIDS, to keep weight up. One of the side effects, though, is what they call deca-dick.
What?
Erectile dysfunction.
Oh.
Particularly if it's taken without adequate testosterone. It can also cause breast tissue growth, acne, liver problems, water retention, enlarged prostate. It's wild. Dianabol, this is the original one that we talked about before that probably gay dude invented. It's super toxic for the liver. Equipoise, HGH, human growth hormone, not strictly speaking a steroid either, but it is definitely something that a lot of bodybuilders use. Proviron, I don't know. Testosterone is the old G. Tren, you talked about Tren.
Mm-hmm. That came up a bunch when I was looking stuff up.
One of the side effects is Tren cough. Apparently it's a severe cough that usually comes on immediately after injection.
Wow.
Which that's weird. Like inject something and then start coughing.
Yeah.
Anyway.
That doesn't make sense.
Or Trendick, which is low sex drive. Winstrol. So the takeaway here for me is that this is first very complicated. It's not just like, I would like a steroid, please.
Yeah, one steroid.
Give me
inject it to
Mr. Dealer, I would like to do steroids now.
Yeah.
There is a careful balancing act between the way all of these things interact and how you cycle them on and off, and there are ways which could go really poorly, and it's just not for the faint of heart, I think. And so I was just I learned a lot about just how nuanced and complicated this whole world is, and it requires a lot of sort of like monitoring of your own body in a population that has issues with body dysmorphia and like aren't reliable narrators when it comes to their own bodies.
Yeah, I didn't think about that part. Yeah, you got to be in touch with yourself to know what's kind of things are changing, and if it's changing to an unhealthy degree or healthy, and like you're doing steroids, so what's your calibration on what's healthy, a healthy change?
Yep.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah.
We're both people that have not used steroids, so cannot give good advice on, like, it just scares me.
Yeah. It scares me in the same way that like going on mental health medication scared me. There's this like, I'm going to fundamentally fuck something up and then I'll be transformed forever in a bad way. I have similar feelings like, I'm going to, my balls will shrink and I'll get boobs and like nothing we can do to fix that. And that's irrational fear, I think. Like those things might happen, but they're not necessarily irreversible and aren't even necessarily going to happen to you.
But there are risks
There are risks.
Yeah. That's interesting that you put it in the same category as like mental health medication because like
I just remember being so worried. Like you're going to put me on Lexapro? Like what's it going to do to me? Like I might be crazy forever.
Yeah.
And that's not how it works.
Yeah. Yeah. Steroids scare me way more than I also didn't take medication for my depression for a long time, partially because that was the advice of my parents and I had to learn how to break away from their advice. But also, I was worried about taking medication and what that might do to me. Mm-hmm. But then a doctor with a PhD prescribed it.
Hopefully an MD also.
I mean, hopefully with an MD. That's what I meant. So yeah, they're two very different things. I was going to tell you, you mentioned some of the risks. Let's see, but there's a range of physical and emotional problems that can include liver tumors, cancer, jaundice, high blood pressure, increases in cholesterol level, kidney tumors, fluid retention, severe acne. There's some of these physical things that I'm like, oh, if you're doing this for physical attractiveness and then you get severe acne, that kind of sucks.
I mean, I've for sure seen dudes in the locker room that have like wild back knee, and like it's for sure because they're like something in their gear is causing it.
Yeah. We mentioned shrinking of testicles, reduced sperm count, infertility, baldness, breast development, and increased risk in prostate cancer. Yeah. For men. Yeah. For women, they may grow facial hair, male pattern baldness, changes or stop in menstrual cycles, a deepening of the voice, and people who are still growing, like adolescents, risk halting their growth because of early skeletal maturation and acceleration of puberty.
Yeah. Yeah.
Emotional problems that are associated with steroid use include mood swings, including manic symptoms that can lead to violence called roid rage.
Yeah. Roid rage.
Yeah.
The 80s, man. We talked about that all the time.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
Just I don't know. Probably Arnold Schwarzenegger and the rise of like bodybuilder culture into the mainstream. But yeah.
You can also get depression, paranoid jealousy, extreme irritability, delusions, and impaired judgment.
Okay.
That's a lot of emotional problems that you're taking on if you decide to do this.
A lot of it sounds like just being gay.
Okay, you're like, check. Already got that. What's the harm? And in addition to the risk of steroid use, if you inject them, then you risk needle-borne diseases like HIV, hepatitis B and C, and other blood-borne viruses.
Plus, you got to know what you're doing. Like, I would be afraid of like sticking it in the wrong thing.
Me too. I would be really worried about to just jab myself anywhere,
because some shit has to go in your muscle, and some shit has to go in your fat, and some shit has to go in your bloodstream, and like I don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
Safely.
Yeah.
Reliably.
Yeah. Me either. Well, my takeaway from this is that it's far more complicated than I thought. I did not realize that you're right, that there were that many types and all the varying effects that they have. I think it's also more common than I expected. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that on the Patreon episode or segment. And I thought it was gay, but it's even gayer than I thought.
Mm-hmm. And that just seems to check out to me. I mean, I forget when we talked about it, but I've heard the whole thing that like, gay church, the gym being gay church, sort of emerged out of the HIV/AIDS crisis, and AIDS, especially in the later stages, causes the body to waste away, and it put a premium on looking muscular, fit, virile, big. And that's where a lot of that came from. And all of that just seems to check out. Like we're also into dudes. So like you were talking about, being able to compare yourself to what you want to bang is like a compounding clusterfuck. And I was pretty sure it was going to be gay. And here we are.
But you thought 1 in 5?
No, that blows me away.
Okay.
Like, because I know a lot of gays, Kyle.
Yeah.
A lot of gays. And 1 in 5?
Yeah. Woo. That seems wild to me.
Yeah. Also, like, and who knows what counts or whatever, too, right? Like, I wonder if they're specifically talking about, like, injectable anabolic steroids or other.
Yeah, the study was on anabolic steroids. Yeah.
That's intense.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
Are we all wet? Are we naive? Listeners?
Listeners, let us know if we're wet.
Let us know. Let us know if we're wet. Let us know. No, don't let us know. I don't want to know. Do you think 1 in 5 of our listeners, so like 3 people, are on steroids, Kyle?
I think our listeners tend to be the people that don't fit these kinds of things, like these kinds of categories. So I think would be less likely to do steroids.
Okay.
So no, I don't think so. Do you think so?
I don't know.
Did we do it?
Steroids?
Did we do steroids?
It's funny the number of times we said that we were going to do steroids. No, for the show.
For the show.
As a topic.
Yeah.
I think we did it.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's gay.
It's gay.
Great. Do you want to take a break?
Let's take a break.
Break.
This is the part where Mike and Kyle take a break.
Oh, we're back.
We're back.
We're back.
We're going to do our Gayest and Straightest.
We're going to do our Gayest and Straightest. But first, hey, listen.
Okay.
Rate, review, subscribe, and recommend.
Yes, please.
It helps.
It helps us a bunch. Send an episode to your friend that you think they might like.
Yeah.
Post it to your socials.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Give us a thumbs up.
Give us a thumbs up our butts. We're going to do our Gayest and Straightest.
Yeah, sure. But first, our website is gayishpodcast.com.
We are on socials at Gayish Podcast, or you can go to gayishpodcast.com/contact to find out where you can find our Facebook group and our Discord and all that other fun stuff we do.
Our hotline, you can send us text messages or leave us voicemails, is 5855-GAYISH. That's 585-542-9474. Standard rates apply.
Our email is gayishpodcast@gmail.com.
And our physical mailing address is Post Office Box 19882, Seattle, Washington, 98109. And I'm sorry I haven't been there in a while, and it's because the new place is further away. But Derek's going to do it.
Thanks, Derek. Gayest and Straightest?
Let's do our Gayest and Straightest.
Okay, I'll go.
Great.
My gayest is that there was just champagne and orange juice sitting out at work, so I made myself a couple mimosas.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Drinking at work. I love it.
Yeah. There's like barely anyone there, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. My straightest is I was using Dude Wipes.
Oh, God.
They're this brand of, quote unquote flushable wipes that are clearly branded to try to make you feel better for being a dude and using a wipe.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was called Dude Wipes.
Manscaped sent us some of those too.
Oh, really?
For your balls.
Oh, they had ball wipes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah. That's weird. Okay.
What about you?
Well, so the straightest thing about me this week, ironically, was watching my boyfriend make out with a lesbian. We went out on Friday. Oh, that was an evening to remember, as they say. But there's a friend of a friend who's a lesbian, and she just wanted to make out with everybody, regardless of gender, and it was nice.
Yeah.
And then the gayest thing about me this week was last night. Went to a fundraiser at the local bar here, Cece's, and bought so many jockstraps off of rugby players.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was fun.
That's nice.
And then boyfriend's friend who had to get on a flight last night was going to wear them around his neck like a lei. We have a listener's Gayest Straightest this week. It's from a voicemail?
Yep, from voicemail.
From a dude?
Yep, from Chris from Omaha.
Chris from Omaha?
Yeah.
Nebraska?
Yeah.
Hi, Mike and Kyle. It's Chris from Omaha, Nebraska. Longtime listener, first-time caller. Love the show. Just want to give you this week's Gayest and Straightest. My gayest would be putting off getting my car's oil changed. And my straightest would be somehow fucking up a box of brownie mix, but still eating the entire pan anyway. Thank you, guys. Stay sexy.
Stay sexy? That's a great line. That's a great sign-off. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh. Also, yeah, I'm pretty sure that I haven't had my oil changed in like a year, and that's not great.
I don't know how often you're supposed to do that.
Every 5,000 miles or 10,000 miles or something like that. Whatever the sticker on the window says, do not that, but a little bit more, and you're fine.
Yeah.
Well, that's it.
That's it.
That's great. Thank you to all the muscle jock bunnies.
Yeah. Yeah, why not? Thank you to all the people that don't use steroids as well.
And thank you to all those pharmaceutical companies for putting out way more steroids than can be justified by diagnosis and prescription.
Exactly. And thank you to our super gappers. Thank you to Locomotive, Kaylee Adams, Kit Oliver, Kobe Gordon, Squoggle, Pip, Andrew Bugby, William Bryant, John Crawley, Yostosel, Jonathan Montanius, Forrest Nail, Steve Douglas, Explosive Zanya, Michael Covington, Just Jamie, Thomas B, Dusty Sands, A. Coleman, Chris Catchatorians, and Jerome York. Thank you for your support.
Thank you for your money. That's it. This has been Gayish from the Chris Catchatorian Studios. I'm Mike Johnson.
I'm Kyle Getz. Until next week, be butch, be fabulous, be you. See ya.
Bye. You roid ragers.
What was that noise?
I don't know.